time now for the nationally syndicated radio show, The World of Laurie Zoock. And now, here she is, the smart, the sexy, the savvy, divine Miss C.
And welcome to my world, the world of Laurie Zoock. I want to give you some freaky, creepy statistics today before I introduce my guests, so this will be a kicker for you. When the game Twister was introduced in 1966, it was denounced by critics as sex in a box. So nowadays we have to, Jeff's looking at me, we got to kind of a weird one. Did you know that if you were to remove all of the empty space from the atoms that make up every human on Earth, the entire world population could fit into an apple? That one's kind of creepy too. But what's even worse is that in 2013, Iran passed a law that allows men to marry their adopted daughters as young as 13 years old. Yes, that's a real one. Yep, that's a real one. So I want to give you
Mississippi, maybe.
Give you some food for thought there. Well, on that note, now we're going to go right to the serious stuff. I have with me on the line Officer Preston Chatmon of the Lakeland Police Department. Welcome to the show, Preston.
Hello, thanks for having me.
You are very welcome. I want to talk this morning about dogs because I love dogs, and I know you know quite a bit about the canine program, canine officers. So let's jump in here a little bit and tell me, law enforcement dogs, what are they trained to do? What is their purpose?
Well, they serve multiple purposes, actually. More so specifically, when you think of a law enforcement canine dog, you think automatically for narcotics. This is just one of the things that they're trained to do, which is to indicate the odor of narcotics. But if we really jump and dive into the world of law enforcement or militarized canines, odor recognition would be how I would describe one of the things they're trained for, and that's anything from electronics to bombs, obviously to narcotics, and a lot of single-purpose dogs are being utilized now to track people down. For an example, a missing, endangered elderly person or a child that has some type of developmental issue that may have wandered away from home. So when you think of police canines, that's the first thing that people think about is drug-sniffing dogs, when in fact any scent that we can pretty much harness, we can train a dog to track for. Like I said, from electronics all the way up to marijuana, any type of narcotic that's out there now. That we can actually focus in on that source scent. So go ahead.
That's right. Well, let me ask you a question on that. I can understand, a dog finding a person from their scent or narcotics, but you're saying electronics. How do they sense electronics?
Everything that's pretty much utilized in today's society or today's world has some type of odor on it. Everything. We may not be able to smell it, but I like to compare. Easy comparison is we all know what fresh cut or fresh grass smells like when it's cut, correct?
Right.
And you will never forget that smell.
Right.
You can be driving down the road and what do you say? Oh, somebody must have just cut their lawn, correct?
Exactly.
When we take that same thought process and we change it to the world of a canine and how sensitive, which is about 10,000 to 1, their nose is to ours. That's when we really begin to understand and develop, okay, everything does have a smell. Burnt wiring. Wiring has a smell. When you burn it, electrical wiring has a smell. The coating on the wire actually has a specific smell to them. You and I can't smell them, but Fido sure can.
That's pretty interesting to me. I never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
Now, when dogs are selected to become, enforcement dogs, are there specific breeds used, or do they use mutts, and where do they get the dogs from?
That's funny. Back in the day, they did. Actually, they called them junkyard dogs. Back in the day, those were the pioneers of canine in the United States Police Canine Association for the most part. And I can only speak specifically from me having the tutelage and knowledge from some of the handlers here at Lakeland Police Department over the last several years.
Okay.
But they actually did use, they didn't have anything that they were really looking for as long as the dog was willing to work. And it's come such a long way since then. I mean, now we at Lakeland PD and a lot of agencies in Florida, I would venture to even guess the United States. Don't want to be a liar here, but we stay between the German Shepherd, the Belgian Malinois, which is in the Shepherd family, just a higher drive dog. And for single-purpose dogs, they like to use a lot of the hounds, the labs, because they have an excellent sense of smell and they're very personable. So between those 4 breeds is what we try to stay close to when selecting a dog now.
Okay. Yeah. Now, the training, I don't know how dogs are trained, or I don't know if you know anything about the history, like when dogs were initially starting to work with law enforcement. Do you have any idea when that started?
I can't give you a specific date. I can tell you that Ron Bowling Sr., who was a instrumental part of the Lakeland Police Department, helped facilitate the request and the need for the use or the utilization of police canine in the United States, and he was here. He was one of the main pioneers. And I'll just give you, he's retired. He did about 30 years, and he's around close to 60 now. So if we did the math, and we can go back to, I'm sure, early 1900s as far as the use of police canines, more so for the apprehension-based purposes.
Okay.
But if you really wanted to do your research, you would definitely start with the United States Police Canine Association, and backtrack from there.
All right. Now, what kind of training do officers receive, and then separately, what kind of training do dogs receive to be involved in, in law enforcement?
We'll do that. We'll break it into 2 parts.
Sure.
This is mind-boggling. This is mind-blowing. You're gonna say, dude, really? From point A of purchasing the puppy, which we typically like to stay between 1 year and 2 years old, maybe a little bit younger than a year old, depending on the maturity of the dog. From point A of going and selecting the dog from a vendor until graduation on the day that the officer and his canine partner hit the streets, it's well over 800 hours spent.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a real lot.
Monday through Friday, and to be honest, if you really want to have a jam-up dog, then you're going to go you're gonna be Sunday through Monday. Every day you're going to be doing something with that dog, because these drives on the dogs now are phenomenal. They have to do something. So Monday through Sunday, pretty much for the rest of your life until you get out of canine, but especially for the first 800 hours, the first several months, you're going to be working with that dog. And you're trained by, obviously, a head trainer, or someone will come into the agency for several months and teach you if you don't have a trainer at your agency.
Preston, are the dogs one-on-one with another officer?
Yes. Now, they will have a class of dogs, meaning that they will have, say, myself, I should be, we hope, if it's the Lord's will, we'll be moving to K9 for the police department soon. I'll have my partner, and say my good friend, Jim, he has a K9, and he'll have his partner, and we'll have 5 or 6 K9 teams, and it'll be combined in one class. So only one dog, one handler typically is out at one time, unless they're doing something where we can spread out. Maybe if we're doing some obedience work or focus work, that way we can have, the dogs make sure that they're paying attention to that handler. But you can have anywhere, depending on the size of the agency, from 2 to 3 handlers, canine handlers in one class, up to, I've seen as many as 10. But they're not obviously receiving the same training at the same time. That way the dogs get ample time to rest. They're put back into the cool cars. They can calm down, and they can think about, okay, well, this is good, or whatever dogs think about while they're in the back of the car. But it gives them time to cool down. It's Florida. We want to make sure we keep our buddies nice and cool.
What happens when the dog reaches its retirement age? Where does it go?
They get to retire. What do you do?
I work. I'm retired by work.
Oh, Lord. Well, they get to retire. They get to spend time at home, and for the most part, they're house pets. They still have that drive. They want to work. But, I don't know too many police canines that are just so spent from being a work dog that they just want to bite and kill everything.
Do they go home with one officer, or how do they choose?
They go home with one officer. The officer typically that handled the dog for the several years that in the dog's work span or his career, he gets retired to that handler, and the handler gets a new dog, and now he's stuck with his old dog and a new dog.
Speaking of new dogs, where do they purchase the dogs?
All over the United States, everywhere, from police service dogs in Oxford to Southern Coast K9, all over Miami. We've got Tony Guzman down in Miami. South Carolina, they've got some really good vendors that typically go outside the country to get the dogs and bring them back. They purchase them. They get them a bit acclimated to the United States. They get their paws on the ground for a few weeks, and typically an agency will go over and they'll look at the dogs and test them out, and then that's how they select. There are some agencies that purchase bred dogs that were bred in the United States, but we typically find a higher drive or high quality dog, the ones that are coming out of the country.
Oh, sorry, do the dogs serve one purpose? In other words, is a dog trained for narcotics able to be the same dog that's looking for electronics or that's, doing body recovery? Does one dog do everything, or are they trained for one specific purpose?
When it comes to odor recognition, typically you're going to train it for one purpose. So that's meaning it's going to be either narcotics or bomb or, electronics, whatever the case may be, human, whatever the case may be. Now, what we do with our dual-purpose dogs, a lot of agencies, they have dual-purpose street dogs, meaning that not only do they have the apprehension work, meaning that if they have to, bite someone, unfortunately, that's a part of it, but they'll have the training as well as the tracking, meaning that they can track human odor. That goes back to the fresh cut grass scenario. When you're running, a person is running, they're crushing grass every time they run. They're leaving some type of odor, some type of skin residue behind. And to that dog, it smells like fresh cut grass. So that's how they're able to track. You see a dog just on his nose on the ground, track. That's why. So the dual purpose dogs, they can transition from narcotics and human tracking as well as human apprehension or bite work.
Gotcha. Now, is the job I know obviously it's dangerous for the law enforcement officer, but I'm assuming it's obviously also dangerous for the dogs in some cases, the work that they do?
Extremely dangerous, especially when we're doing a building search or we're actively pursuing a violent person. And the horrible thing is we hate to think and we hate to put the dog in a bad position. However, if I have got to lose a dog, I've got to lose my partner, but I would much rather lose that than a human life, Now,
the dogs can wear bulletproof vests, though, too. Yes, I've seen those sold, correct?
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. What motivates officers to enter canine training? Is it mostly because they love dogs, or is it that would be what hits me?
You would think that. You would think that, but, after about 25 stitches, I've been training with dogs for several years now. Thank God I've had opportunity. The staff here at the Lakeland Police Department really supports future K9 handlers as well as our unit now. So I've had the opportunity to travel all over with the guys and train since day one of me pretty much becoming a police officer. And you would think, oh man, I like dogs, I want to try out K9. It's a lot of work. It is a lot of work, from learning how to decoy, which basically means you're letting the dogs bite on you with protective equipment. And that's a separate, job in itself because you can really damage a dog. But it's a lot of work. You're going to get accidentally bit. That's going to happen. It's not if, it's when. So after some of the people that really find out what canine handling is all about, they get exposed to just a little bit of it. They change their minds. And they're like, well, I do like dogs, but maybe not that much. I just like to say that you're born. You're either born to be certain operators inside the police department, whether it's a canine handler, operator, or SWAT. And some people are great at, being detectives and DUI and all the integral parts of law enforcement that we really need. But you're born to be a canine handler as well as a SWAT operator. That's hands down. Either you have it or you don't.
Gotcha. Now, give me an example of success, maybe the Lakeland Police Department. You don't have to mention names. It doesn't even have to be Lakeland. But give me an example of a good success story with a canine dog.
I have to toot my own horn. I'm very pleased to say that Lakeland Police Department has one of the strongest canine teams and groups in the United States. We recently had one of our canine handlers place first place in the United States Police Canine Association's certification, which is a separate entity that requires you to meet certain standards, or if your dog is not able to work. And K9 Knox and his handler, Chad Whitaker, for the Lakeland Police Department took first in that competition, and that was nationally.
That's a pretty good story. Let me ask you this: when in public, if I'm out and I see the police officers, they have the canine trucks, and sometimes they take them out. Should the public not go up to that dog and pet it because it's been trained specifically for a purpose? It's not a pet.
Well, it's not a pet, but we train our dogs to where they are able to interact with people. Depending on when you see the officer take the dog out, if you can tell, hey, he may be working, he's getting the dog's body harness on or whatever equipment he may be utilizing if it's on a traffic stop, it's probably not the best time to walk up to the dog and pet him. But if it's, you can tell that it's maybe at a demo where they have a lot of law enforcement or firefighter or different equipment out, and they have the dog and the balloons, and it's a demo or somewhere where it's a community-oriented event, go ahead. I can only, don't quote me on every other agency. I can tell you with Lakeland Police Department, I can walk up to any of our dogs and pretty much love all over them, and they're going to love all over me. Well, they're mainly used to biting on me, so they know me. But
right. Now, when they live with the police officer's family, they're then treated, that's their family, their pack, so then they are treated as a pet, I would assume.
Yes, and they should pretty much be kept, to themselves. It's not a house pet. We have to look at it as what we use our gun or our taser or our aspeton or our pepper spray as a tool. Having in mind that is an animal, that is a living being. We take extremely good care of those animals. Those are our partners, but we shouldn't think about leaving the dog out so he can hang around with the kids and things of that nature. Our dogs are taken really good care of. They have huge pens. Huge, like not the normal pens. They're very large, so they have plenty of room to walk around. The best of foods, obviously, because we want to keep them as healthy as possible. But they should pretty much be, kept in their separate, home or, inside the home. It's okay for the kids to go up, pet the dog, love on the dog. That's perfectly fine.
Right, because that's their family as opposed to strangers when they're out in public,
right,
and they're working. Okay, so they know the difference. It's like that stranger danger thing.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Okay, now let's talk a little bit about law enforcement. We have a lot of listeners, and sometimes people are interested in a field, and it actually sounds like a very interesting field. So let me ask you, what made you decide to go into law enforcement?
Funny story. Well, it's really, I was just blessed. Lord bless me. Ever since I was about 5 years old, and I have the writing and the paperwork and everything from elementary school to prove it. My parents still have it. I've wanted to be in law enforcement or a cop. I used to watch Rescue 911 and the television show Cops, and I saw Officer Jose Bosque. He did a K-9 demo at my elementary school. I was in the first grade. Never forget it. And ever since then, I was like, that is exactly what I want to do. I never changed, never thought differently. Didn't want to be a doctor, didn't want to be a lawyer. Now, we need doctors and lawyers. I love them. We need them. They're experts at their, field. Great job. Me? Since I was, 5, 6 years old, I wanted to be a cop. And look at me now.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Because most 5-year-olds have no clue what they want to be, but you already know, and you stayed on that path all the way through schooling.
All the way through.
All right. So tell me, what kind of schooling is involved in becoming a law enforcement officer?
Well, you've got to have your high school diploma. You got to have that, and outside of that, a little life experience wouldn't hurt. Excuse me. If you didn't have the life experience, something to say, hey, I've been doing this for several years, you're a little bit older than 20, 19 years old, it doesn't stop you from getting into law enforcement. Agencies are hiring people as early as 18, 19 now. And, to be honest, I started when I was 21, 22. So, I've been in it for several years now. And I chose the option of going to college. That's also not a bad idea. So you've got to have your high school diploma. A little life experience wouldn't hurt you, but definitely try to make sure you've got some college. Or if you just want to jump in. Just be on the realization that the streets, they're real. So, the people, the bad people that we deal with, unfortunately, they recognize the fact that you're a kid.
Yeah, it's not just what you see. Like, TV might have motivated you, but there's a reality to it. It's not what you just see on TV and you go, "Oh, that looks cool. I want to do that." Because you're really in danger. Is there an age restriction, like an age limit, to become a law enforcement officer?
As far as how old you are,
right?
No, we just hired. Not just Lakeland, but not. I can't speak for every agency, but typically agencies don't look at the age unless you're just, not of the age to be doing some of the physicalities that this job requires.
I would think you'd have to be in good physical shape, too.
Yeah. Being very politically correct, that's nice. I'm 60. I'm going to be 61. I'm going, yeah, I could be a cop. Yeah, right. Like I'd ever get through your boot camp. I'd have 3 heart attacks before I get halfway down.
I didn't say that. I didn't.
Now, let me ask you one last question.
Okay.
I know that most officers act honorably. And, a lot of us, we watch, well, I don't watch TV. A lot of people watch TV, or you see on Facebook about police officers who don't act honorably and they do something wrong. So what happens if they violate the law? Are they held to a higher standard because they are a police officer?
I thought about this question, and I knew it was coming.
I try to ask the thought-provoking questions.
Yeah.
What's good for the goose is good for the gander, correct?
Yes.
You know right from wrong, and sometimes that is played unequally, meaning that, hey, we we may make a decision in the act of doing something that we thought was good at the time, and that's different. But if you willingly break the law, if you willingly commit a crime, then the unfortunate part is you know better, and you more than likely will be held at a higher standard. I can't say from every magistrate or judge in the state of Florida or the United States.
Right.
And some of the things that are going on with law enforcement today, I think that has to be another segment in itself. But, if you commit the crime, and and it's definitely a willingly, intentionally, maliciously, any of those, and we can think outside the box of those three that I listed, then I think that you should definitely get dinged.
Right, yeah, right, yeah.
Ding.
Jeff's going ding over
Ding.
here. Well, I mean, that was a lot to learn in a short amount of time. Certainly learned a lot. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. And now, is there a phone number anybody can reach you at if they have additional questions?
They can sure reach me at the Lakeland Police Department at 863-834-6900, and they will definitely get the message to me, and I can return the call. Unfortunately, we don't have work cell phones. I think they're looking into it with some of the new case law coming out with our personal cell phones and things, but I don't have a direct line right now. But our communication specialists are excellent at getting messages to us. So.
All right, very good. I want to thank you, Officer Preston Chatmon. He's from the Lakeland Police Department, and I'll have you back again in the future.
All right, thank you, Laurie. I enjoyed it. You guys have a great day.
We will. Thank you so much.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And stay with us.
Suffer from back, neck, or body pain? Do you suffer from migraines or have jaw or face pain? Has conventional medicine failed you? Were you injured or in an accident? Call chiropractic physician Dr. Dan Maddock at 813-935-1664. Dr. Dan has helped thousands of patients gain relief for more than 30 years. Dr. Dan is caring, gentle, and takes his time with each patient. He's also a past president of the International Craniopathic Society, a special certification of only 300 chiropractors worldwide. Dr. Dan helps patients from the neck up and the neck down. Dr. Dan accepts most insurance plans. Don't continue to live in pain. Call 813-935-1664 today. That's 813-935-1664 and get on track to better health.
Central Payment, your #1 credit card merchant service provider in the industry. Providing e-commerce solutions, POS systems, standalone terminals, mobile apps, and much more. Call Central Payments James Carner at 813-777-4332. Looking for the lowest rates in the industry and #1 customer service? Call Central Payments James Carner at 813-777-4332. That's James Carner, 813-777-4332.
Hi, this is Laurie Zoock, radio host from the world of Laurie Zoock. I was so nervous about getting tattooed, but after doing my due diligence and checking out companies and artists, I had my tattoos done by Justin Dubois of Suncoast Tattoos. He is knowledgeable and artistic, and he gave me a beautiful tattoo, and he put me at ease before, during, and after the process. I just love my new tattoo. Go get your tattoo at Suncoast Tattoos. Call them at 727-575-7935 today. That's 727-575-7935. Or go to suncoasttattoos.net. Are you looking for an affordable way to advertise to thousands of consumers nationally? If you own a business and didn't think you could afford radio advertising, you need to call me, Laurie Zoock, host of the nationally syndicated radio show, The World of Laurie Zoock. My show reaches thousands of people on 29 AM and FM stations nationwide, as well as through the internet. Additionally, your commercials will also be heard on all of my podcasts and throughout social media sites. Don't wait another minute. Call me at 813-777-4908, 813-777-4908, and let me bring your message to the nation and to help you gain more exposure. Welcome back to the world of Laurie Zoock. If you were not with us in the last segment, I had Officer Preston Chatmon of the Lakeland Police Department with us, and we talked about law and order and canine officers, the police dogs. Now we're going to go on the exact opposite, or we're going to talk about it anyway. I have with me Kathleen Russell. She's from the Center for Judicial Excellence, and she's been on the show before. And Kathleen, I want you to tell a little bit about what the Center for Judicial Excellence does.
Sure, Laurie. It's great to be back. The Center is an advocacy organization based in California that is exposing widespread corruption in the court system, particularly the family court system, where parents go to figure out custody arrangements or get divorced in the, all across America, and there's widespread corruption, and we advocate for changing laws and working with the media to expose what's going on, because ultimately it's the children who are paying this horrible price, and lots of children are being forced to live or visit with mentally ill, unstable parents, and it's a tragedy.
Well, it is, because when you grow up with a mentally unstable parent, and I know this for a fact, it can ruin the child's life. And if they're not able to get help or pull themselves out of it, it can make their life crazy. So, one of my favorite topics, of course, is sociopaths and psychopaths, because those are people, they have no guilt, no remorse. They don't think about what they're doing and how their interaction with others is affecting those people. They just kind of, I call them floaters or zombies. They float through life doing whatever they want. So where do these sociopaths and psychopaths in family court, where do you see that? Is it so predominant now?
Yes, the courts will often and really frequently collude with psychopaths and sociopaths. So that's the real tragedy, is that you have a relatively normal parent who's trying to divorce, and it's not always parents, it could just be a couple without children, but trying to divorce someone who they realize is a sociopath or psychopath. And the courts will routinely favor the psychopath or the sociopath because they're very cunning, they're very charming,
yes.
They present well, they walk into court very confident. Usually the person who's separating from them is traumatized, is suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, doesn't present well, and judges are human beings and they have biases, and they often will favor the sociopath and kind of believe all the lies and the song and dance that those folks are so good at.
Now, do you think it's because the sociopath, because they are so cunning and so charming and they present themselves maybe so much better than someone who is normal, that feels guilt and remorse and has the normal emotions when they appear in court? To me, it seems like the sociopath looks better to the
yes.
judge because of how they're presenting themselves, but in reality, it's actually backwards of how they're presenting themselves in the real life scenario.
Right. And what a lot of people don't understand before they step foot in court is that the court is like a game, and a lot of people go into court with very naive notions that it's about truth and justice and the facts, and if you have a good lawyer and you present the facts, then you will prevail. And particularly if you're fleeing a marriage from a sociopath or psychopath, a lot of times there is very clear evidence that this person is mentally ill, or that you have been violently harmed by this person. You've got medical records or police reports, and oftentimes the courts will just ignore evidence, and judges will get drawn in by the sociopath or the psychopath. A lot of judges don't have the training that they need to detect mental illness, and so that's why they sort of unconsciously will collude with the mentally ill person, and it's horrifying for the parents who are trying to protect their child from that other parent.
I'll make it brief, and thank you. I appreciate Kathleen talking to you. And we had spoke off the air. I have an ex-wife, and thank God for that. And I went through the court system with this person on several occasions. And just like you had said, they're groomed very well. They're articulate. They know they can cry on cue. They know how to look at the jury. They know how to look at the judge. And myself, I was getting passionate about what the truth really is. And I had mentioned to you, the truth has no other versions. Truth is truth. And I gave the truth the way it was, in literally in black and white. But I was not allowed to present the fact that my ex was diagnosed with a doctor's letter with bipolar and manic depression. And she was not taking her medication. She was gobbling up my medication and alcohol every night. And being some people that are not aware of bipolarism, they do things that are very unusual. When they're in their manic mode, they do things that are truly crazy or borderline crazy, and it's always in the privacy of the home. But when they step out into the public, they are the best people. They
look normal.
They look and act normal. They go through life with looking through a mask and winking through the hole all the time at you, knowing you know what's really going on, but I'm going to put on.
It's like two people. It's like two people in one. It's two people in one.
And she even went through a time in her. I'll try to make it real quick. She went through a time where she started wearing wigs, and I'd have no problem with people wearing wigs, but the person would change her personality according to the wig. So I would come home and I would be greeted by a completely different person. Even her face changed. And at first it was like, this is hot. This is so...
It makes me think, do you remember that was the movie or the book Sybil?
Yes.
Where it was multiple personalities?
She would take on this persona of the person wearing the wig. And I'm going, wow. And I had just gotten married to her. So it was kind of like, wow, this is great. I can't ask for more. It went downhill. It really went downhill quick because it started to get weird and it started to present itself as being, this is sick. And I needed to get myself away from this person. And once I decided that, this is when she decided to do anything she could to stop me from leaving, going, having another life. And it was scary because in the court system, I realized, and you're right, Kathleen, it is a game. It does not matter what the truth is. It has nothing to do with the truth. So any of you guys out there, or girls, that believe you have a person who's manic depressive or bipolar or sociopath or psychopath, you need to get away from them as fast as you can, and don't try to avoid the court system because it will be an exercise in futility. You will wind up spending all your money, which I spent a lot of money to get myself out of trouble for something I didn't do, but finally proved I didn't do it. And if I didn't have the damning evidence of a videotape to prove I didn't do it, I would be in a prison situation right now. There's no doubt in my mind. If I didn't have the proof, she would have won because her portrayal was so innocent and so godlike and so angelic. And I'm going, this is not the person who I go to bed with.
But do you think, whether it's in a situation like yours or like Kathleen's talking in court, do you think that those people are aware? Because I know in my experiences with people, in either relationships or that I've known throughout my life, some of these people, they know what they're doing. They know they're manipulating. And even if it seems like they're two people, they're actually aware of what they're doing. Then you have the people that are totally unaware of what they're doing, the same kind of behavior, but they're clueless as to, if you said you're a different person on the outside than the inside, they would look like, no, I'm the same person. So
she knew what she was doing. She was calculating and very cunning, extremely cunning. But little by little, as we went through this, which took 8 months, by the way, 8 months for me to go through this court case. Little by little, I noticed the prosecuting attorney was looking at her and saying, that's not what you told me. In fact, we had found that she perjured herself twice. She admitted to tampering with evidence, and even her witnesses lied, and we caught, luckily I had a good attorney, and he caught them in the lie. And this little by little chipped away at this angelic person that was portraying themselves as being the innocent victim. And by the time the end came, she embarrassed the prosecuting attorney.
Well, I can see why the good people would go postal, so to speak. Why it would make them now. Kathleen, in a court system, I don't know what kind of training judges go through, but are judges, do they have any type of psychological profile done on them? Because they're making the decision, and what if you have a judge that falls into the psychopath or sociopathic?
Laurie, that's a great question, and unfortunately, judges I mean, they are supposed to be trained, and there certainly are some good trainers out there, but family court is the court that no judge wants to land in, and so a lot of times the brand new judges get put there who have very little to no training, and a lot of times the trainers come to the training with certain biases, and we've heard reports from retired judges where they were sort of wink and a nod during the training, told that whenever child abuse is mentioned in a divorce context, that you should question and be suspect and really punish the parent who is suggesting they don't want to share custody of their child with the other parent.
You know, it makes it almost like going to court. It almost makes me think I'd rather run away to a foreign country with my kids.
Yeah,
than
a
stay.
lot of parents do that, and it often will land them in jail when they get caught because lots of resources get put toward tracking them down. But there's I talked to a reporter just last week about wanting to know about an underground that might exist in the U.S. for people who are doing just that, because they go to all the authorities, the DA, the police, the courts, and nobody is willing to believe what their child is saying when they're being sexually abused often or physically abused, and it's a real crisis.
Now, in cases where that happened, when it goes to court, does the good parent, have they ever caught the bad parent, on video, where then they go before the judge and say, look, judge, here's the video of it happening, the secret video, and then the judge says, well, I don't care.
Yep. Certainly video is a hard thing to dispute, but a lot of times parents will videotape their child confessing about a crime by the other parent, and the judges will use that video against the safe parent and say, you shouldn't have been talking to your child. You were coaching your child to tell you these things. So it can be very challenging because, the courts are geared to not believing that crimes are being committed against children by one of their parents. And so, the judges, if they have severe biases, which many of them do, and they've been trained to believe that any time abuse is suggested in a divorce, that the parent bringing it up is lying and fabricating, and then they use psychology, and they'll send you to a custody evaluator, or they'll make you have a psychological evaluation, and then these so-called experts get brought in by either side. And these folks have no qualms about misrepresenting the facts or, just saying whatever they want to say. Perjury is widespread in family court, and people will routinely call us and say, this expert got on the stand and just flat out lied about what my ex's psych evaluation said, and the judge, we raised it with the judge, and it was, ignored or overruled.
Luckily, mine was not.
It's kind of the wild, wild west of, the
That's
court
what I
system.
felt like. I had got into an arena that I thought was truly based on the justice, and they were truly trying to sift through the evidence to find the truth. And it was nothing even close to that by the time I got done. And thank God this didn't involve a child. This was between her and I. And thank God I was able to produce the evidence, and they allowed it, because even my attorney had said they may not allow this. It may not be admissible, and which was my only silver bullet, as he called it. This is your silver bullet. If this gets in, you're walking, because this is the truth. He goes, I saw it. It's the truth. And like I said, after the prosecuting attorney saw it, that was the end of it. Done.
Yeah.
I'd like to dismiss this. And it went from a really bad situation to a really unbelievable situation, because all through that 8 months, I had been telling the truth. I had been showing them the evidence, but it kept coming back where the psychopath, the sociopath, the bipolar person, was on her toes the whole time and was able to lie on demand. Without stuttering or blinking an eye, was able to lie and tell a fabricated story that was amazing if it really happened. And I thought they were believing it because the judge looked sympathetic. The eyes were sympathetic. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Right. Well, sociopaths and psychopaths actually believe their own lies, and they actually have constructed a personality because they they don't have a regular personality like you and I do, and so their whole life is a calculated construction. They look to others to try to figure out social cues, and they do end up believing their whole history of lies, and so it can be very convincing.
Oh my gosh.
It had even gotten to the point where we had gotten into this case, and this all, by the way, this all started because I walked in on her having sex with my best friend. And then that's how this all started. And I said, that's it, I'm leaving you. I'm closing the store. You're okay. Well, I'm closing the store, and that's it. I'm done with you. I'm getting a divorce. And she says, we'll see about that. And I thought, it was a typical response from somebody saying that. My Lord, did all hell break loose. And another thing that saved me is I subpoenaed the boyfriend to come in. And under oath, I thought he would lie, but he told the truth. He says, no, I was having an affair with her the whole time that he was married to her. And he says, so was my twin brother.
Oh, my God.
And I go, oh, my God. I didn't know about that. I didn't know about that other part of the story. So that showed to the jury that this woman is telling a lie.
Right.
This didn't happen. This is not true at all. This is all
it almost
lies.
makes me, as an honest person, knowing that the odds are stacked against me. This is what you guys are telling me. The odds are stacked against me. And so it says to me, then maybe I should just lie and do the opposite to get the right reaction, even though I know I couldn't do that because that's not my personality or my morals. But it makes me think about it. But don't go anywhere, Kathleen and Jeff. Let's stay with us. We're going to be back just after a quick commercial break.
Central Payment, your number one credit card merchant service provider in the industry. Providing e-commerce solutions, POS systems, standalone terminals, mobile apps, and much more. Call Central Payments James Carner at 813-777-4332. Looking for the lowest rates in the industry and number one customer service? Call Central Payments James Carner at 813-777-4332. That's James Carner, 813-777-4332.
Are you looking for an affordable way to advertise to thousands of consumers nationally? If you own a business and didn't think you could afford radio advertising, you need to call me, Laurie Zoock, host of the nationally syndicated radio show, The World of Laurie Zoock. My show reaches thousands of people on 29 AM and FM stations nationwide, as well as through the internet. Additionally, your commercials will also be heard on all of my podcasts and throughout social media sites. Don't wait another minute. Call me at 813-777-4908, 813-777-4908, and let me bring your message to the nation and to help you gain more exposure.
Do you suffer from back, neck, or body pain? Do you suffer from migraines or have jaw or face pain? Has conventional medicine failed you? Were you injured or in an accident? Call chiropractic physician Dr. Dan Maddock at 813-935-1664. Dr. Dan has helped thousands of patients gain relief for more than 30 years. Dr. Dan is caring, gentle, and takes his time with each patient. He's also a past president of the International Craniopathic Society, a special certification of only 300 chiropractors worldwide. Dr. Dan helps patients from the neck up and the neck down. Dr. Dan accepts most insurance plans. Don't continue to live in pain. Call 813-935-1664 today. That's 813-935-1664 and get on track to better health.
And welcome back. I have with me Kathleen Russell from the Center for Judicial Excellence. And we've been talking quite a bit about sociopaths and psychopaths, and especially in family court. Now, Kathleen, what happens in family court? Does your center, do you try to help individuals when they're going through cases? Or do you try to make it more aware to the public and initiate change? Because I sit here and go, shouldn't there be some type of national legislation that says judges should be psychologically analyzed to make sure that they actually can be unbiased? Because it doesn't seem to me like there's any justice.
Yes, there isn't any justice, and we do occasionally go and do court watch, where we sit and observe a proceeding when a litigant asks us to go and witness their case. And you'd be amazed just sometimes having people in the courtroom, the judges behave better, and they aren't quite as punitive and biased towards the safe parents in these cases where abuse is happening. But most of our work is focused on advocacy, getting the media to really pay attention to what's going on in the court system. We equate it to the Catholic Church pedophile scandal in its scope and reach. There are so many children in this country, and a conservative estimate is more than 58,000 kids every year are being court-ordered to live with an abuser, and a lot of those abusive parents are sociopaths and psychopaths. So we work with the media to expose what's going on because we haven't reached that tipping point yet that has happened with the Catholic Church, where now everybody knows about how many priests have harmed children and how the bishops were colluding and keeping that covered up. The same things are going on in the family courts because there's no accountability. So we also are working in the state legislature here in California, and we have some allies who are going to have a resolution in the U.S. Congress that is being finalized right now and resolutions aren't binding, unfortunately, but at least it's a step in creating more national awareness about the family court crisis and the fact that these judges are so frequently colluding with abusers and sociopaths and putting children in harm's way.
Now, I want to go back for a moment to when you did, when your organization does the court watch, do they know who you are, or it's just because there are additional people that are not parties to that case? Is that why you think that they're
yes.
better
sometimes, we often will go, and the family courts are open to the public. A lot of people think because it relates to children, it's a closed procedure and everything is private, but that's not the case. Most often you can walk into a family courtroom to support a friend or neighbor or a stranger even, and sometimes the judge will say, who are you, or who are you here with? And we will say we're members of the public and we're just here to observe, because sometimes the judge might use it against one party or another. Sometimes a parent wants the judge to know that we're there for them, and that it can be helpful. But just having witnesses in the courtroom often will change a judge's behavior, because they're dealing with traumatized people who are, many times trying to escape the grip of a violent or sociopathic person. And these judges, I think they get traumatized by listening to such horrible cases all day, every day, and they really do dehumanize the people that come before them.
It's almost like they're desensitized. Well, it makes me think, I'm not sure in California, because we're here in Florida, but in the court system, they don't, it used to be there was always a court reporter. Now you have to pay for a court reporter. But the thing
right.
And
that's right.
Yeah, and the thing I learned from all the lawyers I know down here is if you go to court, you should have a court reporter, because it puts that judge on notice that because that way, if there's an issue, it can go to appeal. They can catch it in the transcripts. Now, I don't know in California if you have to hire it, but that would be a big thing, I would think, for your organizations to say, hey, make sure you hire a court reporter, because it puts that judge on notice. Otherwise, it's like, I hate to say, the old boys network. It's he said, she said, and no one's recording it.
Absolutely, and that is happening in California and in a lot of states across the country, where court reporters used to be a right. It was basic right of going to court, and now it's for hire. And a lot of people don't know you have to pay for a court reporter, and you cannot do an appeal of your judge's decision if you don't have a transcript showing what happened in the lower court. Although in these cases, we find a lot of times appeals are just a waste of money, and they can cost $50,000 to do an appeal. And if you've been battling in family court against a sociopath, they love to take you to court again and again. We talk to people who've lost their jobs because they keep getting dragged into court by their sociopathic ex.
Right.
And their bosses don't want them going to court every other week on an ex parte motion. And
right.
so people end up losing their homes and their retirement accounts in these legal battles where the courts also force you to hire all these different professionals in the midst of your custody situation. And so you'll say you need a psych evaluation, or every member of the family needs to go to therapy, and you need an attorney for your child, and these costs are all borne by the couple. And so, it's sort of become this cottage industry.
And I think the whole thing
bankrupts people.
Right, and I think the whole thing is sad. I will say I've sat in court proceedings where I've seen no court reporter, and the difference in the attitude of the judge when there is a court reporter versus when there's not. But I will tell you, a lot of attorneys don't tell their client, and the court certainly doesn't tell their client, why should they, to go ahead and hire a court reporter. But I think having that person sitting there right in front of the judge, doing the recording, kind of does change the attitude. So it might put that judge to a better mind frame, like, oh, I'm being recorded, I must be a professional and be objective, versus there's no one there. But I think the whole situation is just sad, and there should be some type of national legislation.
Absolutely, and we are working to try to find someone in Congress who's willing to take on the judicial branch and create some accountability where none exists.
Right. Well, I want to thank you so much for joining me again today. Would you please give out your information, if anybody wants to contact you, needs help?
Sure, yeah. The Center for Judicial Excellence is at www.centerforjudicialexcellence.org, and we have a phone number at 415-444-6556. Great.
Thanks again. I'm sure we'll have you back. It's always interesting to talk to you, and hopefully, we'll be able to help you a little bit.
Thanks, Laurie.
Yeah, thanks.
Appreciate being on your show.
You're very welcome, and join us next week for another show, The World of Laurie Zoock. See ya.
At the Oaks of Clearwater, you'll enjoy a lifestyle to fit your needs. From independent living, assisted living, memory care, and skilled nursing. Our exciting independent lifestyle is the perfect combination of freedom, comfort, and security. Enjoy total independence with peace of mind. Our independent lifestyle includes chef-prepared meals in our beautiful waterfront dining room, a continental breakfast, all utilities, including cable and telephone, housekeeping with linen service, scheduled transportation, including trips for shopping, local restaurants, theater, and more. Our activities program is second to none. At the Oaks of Clearwater, you'll enjoy affordable luxury waterfront senior living with $1 million view. Call today, 727-445-4069, and discover where caring, compassionate service really makes the difference.
Arg, matey. When it's time for lunch, when it's time for dinner, when the show's over, when the day's over, when it's time to chill, where do we go? Over to Naughty Nancy's Food Shack and Crow's Nest Pub. It's literally in our backyard, right in back of the WTAN studios at 700 Eldridge Street, just north of downtown Clearwater. Just look for the broadcast tower. Nancy's food and atmosphere get rave reviews. The laid-back patio is a great place to hang out, dine, and listen to live music at night. And Nancy's one of the friendliest proprietors in town. And now, Nancy is serving Sunday Jazz Brunch from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Brunch served with Eggs Benedict, crepes, waffles, lox and bagels, shrimp, oysters, and a build-your-own omelet. That's all at Naughty Nancy's Food Shack and Crow's Nest Pub, 700 Eldridge Street in Clearwater. That's right where Eldridge crosses the Pinellas Trail between Myrtle and Fort Harrison. Call 446-3717. 446-3717. You're listening to the Tan Talk Radio Network.